Part of homesteading or farming is raising livestock and sometimes selling them or culling them. Stay tuned. I want to share with you guys I sold some goats and how advantageous goats are to any rural home or environment. Welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. Yeah, we're down to 2 does and 2 bucks. I sold the 4 babies that were born earlier this year, but we also bred the does, so we've got new babies coming in the spring of next year. I want to share with you guys one of the advantages of having goats, primarily goats, in a rural environment. It's obvious with the pasture behind me. This is the area where the goats have been for a couple of years now. They've been cleaning that up and keeping it clean, which reduces fire danger. Now, if you see this area over here, this is untouched by goats, but the deer do forage over here, but not as much as they would in the pasture here. So you can see how thick and a lot of fuels are on the ground level for wildfires to come in and burn up. Now, goats will forage on grasses, and not just grasses. They also forage on leaves, bark, twigs, acorns, a lot of variety. They don't eat just one thing, so they eat a variety of things and anything they can reach, which is really good, and that's good for what the goat reaches, both on the ground and up the tree. It will keep the fuels from wildfires on the ground at a minimum. So in the dry season, there's very little, if no fuel at all, for a wildfire to get to. Even ash, hot embers from a wildfire, if it should come in and ignite the grasses. So the goats keep that well at bay and under control. So it creates a nice buffer zones from wildland forest fires on the homesteads and farms or rural communities that do have goats. Now, that's just one of the side benefits from having goats. Having does, especially when they're lactating, you can milk them, and you not only get milk, but with this Nubian breed of goat that I raise, this breed allegedly has the highest butterfat content in their milk, so you can easily make butter from this goat's milk. You can also make lotions and creams and soaps from their milk products as well. Or you can cull if you get too many goats, and you can send one to freezer camp, and you can do a variety of recipes with goat meat. Goat meat is one of the number one most consumed meats worldwide, because more cultures, especially the poor ones and the ones that don't have a lot of grasses, the goat is the animal of choice to raise for both milk and meat. So it's a good animal to have, especially in the regions where we live, to mitigate fire damage, to provide us nutrients and nutrition, and also some comic relief, because each goat has their own personality, and they are hilarious at times. They can also be a nuisance and getting into where you don't want them to be in. So I provide 2 types of fencing. I have this field fencing that completely surrounds the goat area, and it also completely fences in the perimeter of my property. I fortify this with a couple of strands of solar activated electric fence. This helps the goats respect the fence, though they won't get through the fence. My cross fencing is all electric. That way, it's just, if they get through that, they're just going to get from one pasture to the other. I'm trying to really good pasture management, and only have the goats in one pasture for about a week or two at a time, then move them to another pasture, so that pasture has a chance to recover and grow back. Now, of course, if you're going to have does and you want to breed your goats, you can have billy goats, a billy goat or a billy goat and a wether. Wether is a boy goat without his testicles. I have 2 bucks. I breed them each with either of my does, so I have a good bloodline to continue carrying on. I call this Capricorn Corrals. Capricorn comes from the zodiac or the Greek goat, and so that's why I call it Capricorn Corrals. Over here we have Dexter. He was a goat, papered goat that I purchased. And then I have his friend I purchased also, and this is Stuart. I purchased them from the same breeder, but these are unrelated bucks, so I can be able to breed them with each of my 2 does, both Marble and Agate, who are sisters. Now my bucks do get to get released into their pasture. They've got a pasture separate from the females because I want to be able to control the breeding of goats. And I don't want the goats to breed in the summer months or in too early in the fall, because that way the babies will be born in the winter, and then there's less of a chance of survival for babies in the winter months. And that brings us to shelter. They don't require much, a lean-to, a 3-sided lean-to, just to get out of the draft, the cold wind, and some, typically they don't like to sleep on hay. They'd rather sleep on a nice hard surface. I don't know what it is about goats, but I do provide them some straw, a bed of straw if they choose to lay on. Now I provide even more of a shelter for the doe and the kids, and more protection in the barn, so they're able to get in and get out of the inclement weather, and that way they have a better chance at health and longevity. Also, I have the barn where I can have the stalls and have them separated if I need to, and then also have a stanchion to be able to milk the does in an environment that I can keep clean for me to process the milk, or bring, get the milk out of the does and then take it into the house and process the milk in there. And with the sale recently of the 4 goats, I'm able to put back into the feed bill, which helps mitigate as much out-of-pocket expense as I have to do from raising goats. So if I can raise the babies, sell those off by feed, it's 0 cost overhead for me through the year, because these does, this bloodline will typically give me twins. Occasionally they'll give me triplets. So depending on the market, you can get a decent amount out of the goat. Also depending on age, bloodline, if they, or pedigree, if they're papered or not. There's a variety of different costs that you can get from selling goats to the community. If you sell them as a breeding, that's one cost. If you sell them for culling, that's a different cost. So it's money in my pocket, and it's free. In the end run, it's free because they pay for themselves. Well, I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. This is Pine Meadows Hobby Farms on using goats for mitigation of wildfires, especially if you live in a wildfire-prone area, and also the cost of keeping a goat and the benefits of having a goat or goats. Stay tuned to more videos. You could do that by subscribing and clicking that bell icon. That'll alert you to new videos as I upload them. Give us a thumbs up. Click that share button. Sharing my videos on your social media platforms helps us out. Please leave a comment. Remember, always be safe and please be kind. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye now.